Welcome to Social JumpStart, the cable television program about social media. I'm Mike Wolpert, and our guest today is founder of Bestseller in a Weekend, the seminar and workshop. She's also an author, and she is an expert at self-publishing. Alicia Dunams, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Tell me a little bit about, because I've seen you in action, and it's pretty great watching how you work with people and how you get them to bring that book out and really bring that to life. But tell me a little bit about how you got started. What made all this unravel for you?
Well, first of all, I wrote my own book back in 2007, and I saw through all the trials and tribulations on how to write and publish a book. And then one thing I did in 2008 is I had a seminar, and several of the speakers wanted to write a book too, and they asked me to help. So that's really how my business started. And I just created Bestseller in a Weekend as a way to help business owners like myself, like other people, to write their book in 2 days or less.
So what's turned me on most about what you do is that as it pertains to social media, people who are in a career or doing what that drives them, what they're passionate about, they are likely, therefore, to be an expert in that because it turns them on, they're into it, and then as an expert in that, they probably have a lot to say. So I've watched you draw that out of people and help them to create an entire book. And in the world of social media, where sometimes people struggle with how to create content, creating a book is a whole different operation, but really it's just the same, isn't it?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Absolutely. Everyone is an expert. I always say, how can people be confident in you if you're not confident in yourself? And so if you are an expert, consider yourself an expert, you want to go out there and show your expertise. And really creating a book is the first way to productize your expertise and creating that content. It's being a business owner nowadays, you have to be a creator of content. Actually, you have two jobs being a business owner, sales and marketing. And creating content is part of your marketing plan,
right,
which I also call your visibility plan. It's a way to make you visible to your audience, to your prospects, to your target audience. And so that's really important. And so you need to constantly be creating content, educating people. And people ask, how do I create content? I don't even know where to start. Well, the first thing to do is look in your email box. What are the top 10 questions people are asking you on a weekly basis? Write them down, and you can write a blog entry about it. And then after you've written several blogs, maybe that is a book on this particular niche subject that you are an expert in.
So as an expert, you get asked a series of questions again and again and again. So all you got to do for people who are watching the show going, wow, another thing I don't have time for, but really you do have time for it. You're already, or the viewers and experts and business people, they're already answering these questions, aren't they?
Every day, you have to make time. Because think about it. How many business owners out there are spending, 30 minutes, several times a day talking to a prospect about what they do or what they're good at? Okay, so think about it. You've talked to maybe 10 people in a day. You spent 30 minutes individually talking to people about what you do. How about put that in a form in which it can be delivered to several people at one time? So it's really a way of leveraging your time by creating content, whether it's a blog entry, whether it's an article, whether it's a book. So you can say, hey, if you want to learn more about this particular subject, you can go to this blog or you can go and read this book. As we were talking before the show started, Amazon is a huge search engine. I mean, people are Googling keywords. They are YouTubing keywords as well. But when you are actually Google a title or a keyword, books are coming up. Actually, Amazon is indexing in the search engines.
Right.
And so people are actually going to Amazon.com as well and searching keywords. So are you going to come up? Is your competitor going to come up?
Right. And there's a lot of times where people will answer these questions, will begin to create this content, will even begin to put that into a blog format, maybe not as consistently as would be great. But if they really looked at the amount of time they're currently spending with prospects and allocated a certain percentage of that time to doing this kind of work where they're ultimately going to reach a lot more prospects, that might not pay off in week number one, But that's really going to pay off in a big way for them, isn't it?
Well, in terms of a visibility plan, consistency is key. So everything you do, whether you're on Twitter, on Facebook, when you're blogging, it has to be done on a weekly basis. You really need an editorial calendar. Just like magazines back in the day, when PR people would always submit for editorial calendars, you really, as a business owner, need to have an editorial calendar in which you line out 2012 or whatever the year is going to be, and you say, okay, this week I'm going to talk about this week I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to blog about this, I'm going to Twitter about this. And that way, when you wake up in the morning, okay, this is what I need to focus on this week. This is the week I'm going to have a campaign on this particular subject. So it's very, very important to have an editorial calendar. Again, as I said, you're the marketer of your business, and part of marketing is creating visibility, is creating content.
Right. So as you go through the process and you establish a calendar of what you're going to do, a track to run on, you're beginning to build those content chunks, which are blog posts. People can also take those. We mentioned YouTube being such a huge search engine, second largest search engine after Google. So you can create a little video from that, and you can tweet out a link to the video. You can post the video on Facebook. You can maximize that content in the world of social media. But then as you begin to get through the process of aggregating all that content into the form of a book, that kind of puts a different spin on it, doesn't it? Because I'm a good tweeter is not the same effect internally or externally as I'm a published author.
Well, there's a lot of things you said here. First of all, it's maximizing your content. It's all about repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. So for example, one thing I do, something I teach during Bestseller Weekend, once you write your book, then you could take each chapter and subchapter and put it on blog entries. Or you could do a video. So you're creating the content once and you're either selling it over and over again, or you're duplicating it over and over again in different mediums. For example, either audio, you can do teleseminars and webinars based on the content of your book. You can do blog entries. You can, one thing I do is take tweets from my book and I just put them out there. And that's a perfect way to disseminate and distribute the content that you create. Okay, so really at the end of the day, everyone out there has to be creating content. Doesn't matter how you do it, you got to do it. And then you have to distribute it through social media. So social media is really a way to distribute content. It's also a way to create content. So it matters which way you're looking at it. You can write the book first and then disseminate in different ways, or create video from the book, or create audio from the book, or blog entries from the book. Or you can create this stuff first. Like a teleseminar is a great way to create content for your book. Actually, that's a really great way to create content, is to record your voice, have someone interview, either an expert interview you or a colleague interview you, and then you actually create that content to make a book. And we're talking about ebooks and books. Every business owner out there should have an ebook. And you know what? You should have an ebook published every month.
Because an ebook is essentially a PDF.
Well, there's different formats. There's .epub and there's .mobi. So that's a way to distribute either through Kindle or Nook or Apple iBookstore. So really, it's important to create that content because, again, as I mentioned before, people are going to Amazon.com and searching keywords. It's like how to find a job. What should I wear for my wedding? All these different things people are essentially searching. And is your book going to come up, or is your competitor's book? And that's the question I have.
So when you talk about books, sometimes people might start to think of, Melville's Moby Dick, 800 pages of dense copy. But really, to convey this kind of information doesn't have to be that complicated, does it? It doesn't have to be that dense. It doesn't have to be, you're not writing a thesis. You're writing something that's lighter, easier to write, easier to read. Am I off the mark on that?
You want to write about a niche topic. I always say it's better to be 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep. And you really want to tackle that subject. And, we were mentioning content is king. That's said a lot nowadays.
Sure.
But it's absurdly good content is king. There's tons of content out there. You have to have really good content. And your content has to focus on a particular subject where you own and you master and you that particular subject. So I rather go have a shorter book, 100 pages, in which you really focus on what you are an expert in. Everyone's an expert, as we established at the beginning of the show. You want to show people that you're an expert. What proof do you have that you're an expert? A lot of people can say, oh, I have testimonials from clients. I have a business. That's great. But in terms of how people are finding you, a book is a great way to do that because it gives you that Googleability factor.
Right.
That people are going to search for particular words and you're going to come up in terms of Google or if they're searching on Amazon.
Sure. And let's back up a little bit because once upon a time, getting a book deal, getting published was this nearly insurmountable task. And it was, you're writing the great American novel. If you're really lucky, you'd get a deal with Wiley or one of the other business presses. But now, with the advent of technology, and specifically Amazon and CreateSpace, it's not that difficult, is it? And you began your business helping people do this because you navigated that path to self-publish. So tell me a little bit about how easy that is. Or if it's tough, tell me a little how tough it is.
It's literally a click of a button.
Oh, so that's easy.
Okay.
Tell me more about the clicking of the button.
So if you have content, okay, so of course, if you create content, you want to make sure that it's edited, appropriately.
Right.
You want to make sure you have a disclaimer, okay? So once you have the content, plus getting it edited, and a disclaimer, a legal disclaimer, which I have a blog on that with sample legal disclaimers, of course, but you always want to go to a lawyer to check that out. And then you literally go to Kindle, and they walk you step by step. Because you know what? Kindle wants us there. They want content. The shelf space is unlimited. So they really want to make it easy for authors to come and to create and upload content there. So they're making it super duper easy. They have videos out there. Also, CreateSpace is a way to create your book in a print format. But in terms of when we're talking about Kindle, you take your content, you can go to Fiverr.com or 99 Designs. You can get a cover design for $5.
I'm a big fan of Fiverr.
Yes, so you could do something like that. You have your content. Of course, you get it edited. You add that disclaimer, and then you get a book cover design, and then you literally upload it, and 24 hours later, your book is being sold worldwide, globally, on Kindle.
And you're a published author.
And you're a published author. And that you will show up in the search engines.
Right. And you can download it onto your Kindle, which is, that's pretty cool.
Oh, you can download it straight onto your PC or Mac, too. They've made it really easy.
And should you want to take the next step, as most probably would, and wind up with a physical copy of the book, that's where CreateSpace and Amazon comes into play.
Absolutely. So this is what I say. Okay, so unless you have a super popular blog where hundreds of thousands of people are coming every month, you will most likely not get on TV. So for example, a book will get you on TV, okay?
Right.
But a blog normally, unless you have a really absurdly popular blog, will not get you on TV. So a book is a great way to get you on TV. So in that particular way, you want to have a print version of your book to send to producers, to send to speaking event planners. That's another example where if you want to speak on stage, if you want to have that kind of speaking career, a book is a perfect example, and you have to have a physical copy.
Right.
But the great thing about CreateSpace, Kindle, is you create the content once, you upload it, it is available for the rest of your life and your children's life, creating residual income. And you're not killing trees unless someone orders a book. With Kindle, of course, it's an ebook.
Sure.
And you created it once, and it could sell over and over again.
And you can go back and do a second book.
And you should. And this is the thing. And actually, that's one of my goals for next year is to write a Kindle ebook every month. Because it's better for me, it's better for my clients where they can have access to me for less than $10, some of my tips and tricks on how to get out there. And you have to think about it that way for you too, for business owners out there. you want to make sure that you're doing a service for your clients and for yourself. You want to be able to deliver your information on a global level, more on a one-to-many model than a one-to-one model, which is the original way of doing business, where you're talking on the phone or email exchanges back and forth, telling people how you can help them.
Right.
Wouldn't it be better for them to find you on Amazon and they can find out actually how you can help them in their business? And that's another thing great about Kindle is they give samples. And so people can read the first 10 pages of your book. In those 10 pages, you can say, hey, if you want more information, you can come to my blog. And maybe people won't even buy your Kindle, but they'll go straight to your blog, sign up for your subscriber list, on your newsletter, and then maybe one day they'll hire you, attend one of your seminars. This is the way, this is what you want.
So this is a way to really create a much broader reach.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, it's also, you can order copies for yourself.
Yes.
And just a couple bucks, I would imagine. I guess it depends on the kind of book. But then you would have the most impressive business card of all. Because if I'm going to hand you a business card saying, hi, my name is Mike Wolpert, and I would like to talk to you about how to strategize better for your business about social media, well, that's nice, and I do have good cards. But I suppose if that card was tucked into a book that I had published, there's a little bit more credibility to that.
Yes, a book is pass-along marketing material. You give your book to someone, a client that you helped, they talk to their friends or their friends, hey, read this person's book. This might be able to help you in your business. So again, people keep a book. They pass along a book. It's the best business card that you can ever have. And again, I think it's really, every business owner should write a book. It's so important.
And the process, which we did talk a little bit about that process, but if you just kind of start with a global picture, I would like to write a book about this kind of stuff that I know about. Identify your area of expertise. And then it's important, what I'm hearing from you though, is to pick a real specific area of that. A chiropractor may be very well-spoken on all things chiropractic, but really what people are interested in for some of them would be pain relief. So taking that example, really just drill down on that one thing. Here's what people ask me, here's what people answer. And then start by writing blog posts, sketching out, creating a timeline of an editorial calendar, you called it. So creating a plan for writing. And then as you build that plan, would you start by sharing that on the social networks? If that's, I mean, that's a great way to get into it.
Absolutely. I always say you want to create the environment of anticipation. You want to get your followers on Facebook and Twitter to be excited about what you're writing about. You want to say, hey, here's the new cover of my book. It's not out yet, but what do you think about it? You want to get input. That's what social media is all about. And one strategy I teach all my clients is you want to make sure that your followers are in the book, whether it's through case studies, whether it's through some of their quotes that are on Twitter. So it's like, hey, I'm writing about this particular subject. What are your thoughts on it? And then you're actually getting your community involved and they're providing content for your book. A perfect way to create content for your book when you think, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? So these are the things that you want to do. So you really talk about some important things here. But it's so creating that environment of anticipation, getting people excited, and helping them come along in the journey of you writing your book.
Then theoretically, you're beginning to grow your circle of influence as you go and building, as you called it, that anticipation factor. So when the book launch finally comes, you should have hundreds or perhaps thousands of people going, yeah, about time.
Yeah, about time, or I'm on page 5. It's really important to create that built-in audience for your book. So you want them to come along the journey.
So by really engaging people as you go along, that's do you find that it fuels your authors? I mean, by having that real-life participation, because old school writers tend to be solo type people. But now we're not talking about novelists because we're talking about business experts creating a book to showcase what they do, to monetize what they do, yes. And I see that as valuable, especially as it takes off. You can actually become an author who makes money and builds clientele and webinar and seminar and workshop participants. But it also must release inside of somebody something really important, the idea that, yes, I can do that. It raises the value of what they do, don't you find?
My clients' lives have changed. I've been getting testimonials from them, my bestseller in a weekend clients. They went from maybe charging hourly, $50 an hour for their business coaching, to now speaking on stages nationwide, raising up their fees on TV, on the greatest stages, their speaking calendar booked up. Their lives have changed in a matter of months. And that's why I created Bestseller in a Weekend, because most people are going to find every excuse in the book not to create content, not to write their book, not to do anything. And so it's for busy people. Business owners are busy. One thing they need to do with the editorial calendar I talked about is every Monday you write your blog entry. Every Tuesday morning you create your video. 15 minutes a day I spend on Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to create a wash, rinse, repeat marketing model in which you're spending that time, but you also have to have client days, of course, and you have to have days where you are creating systems in your business, accounting, whatever you have to do, but you have to incorporate social media into your business. And then if you want to write that book, but you haven't come around to it, there's a solution for that too.
So you really have to block out that time. But from what you're telling me, or at least what I'm hearing, is that this is something that if you're willing to spend an hour or two or maybe 3 a week doing the writing and 10, 15, 20 minutes a day doing the disseminating or sharing on social media, is that a reasonable schedule? I mean, is that workable for people?
No.
No. It's too much? It's too little?
I think blogging and video, creating videos and blogging and Twitter and Facebook is enough to incorporate into your schedule. I think writing a book, you need to have discipline, and you need to really be in an environment where it's going to happen. And that's why I did create Bestseller in a Weekend. But to the business owners I find who've been doing it week out, it just doesn't seem to get done.
So for something like this, really making the time to set aside, whether they do your workshop, or
someone else's,
or just really set aside the time. And I knew a guy actually that used to go check into a hotel once a month for 3 days in the same town he lived in, and he'd go work in that kind of environment, because even being at his home office wasn't isolated enough for him.
It's too distracting, and that's a perfect example. Is if you 1 day a week, 1 day a month, you check into a hotel where you say, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write my book. So definitely a lot of writers and business owners have created their book that way. But if you really feel like you need the discipline, of course, it's important to bring on some outside help.
Right, and so making time, specific time, after you set up your plan, which would consist of, what am I really great at? What do I love? What do I do? So what should the book be about? Then you're going to drill down and figure out, within that whole scope, what am I really going to talk about, being, as you said, expertise as an inch wide and a mile deep? Is that the expression that you used?
Well, it's really about who's your target audience, okay? That's if we're really figuring out how to write your book, who's your target audience? What is their headache, and how do you solve it? Okay? So that's how you figure out what your book's going to be about. We don't want your book to be about a cat memoir or what you think your book should be about, because it might not be the case. It's who's your target audience, what's their headache, and how are you going to solve it?
Right.
And that's your book. It's important to do those types of exercises, because if your target audience are women between 20 and 40 who are broke, who don't have any money,
right,
and what you want to do is, that's their pain spot, and what you want to do is help them make money, you have to create a concept. And this should be your expertise, of course. You want to create a concept in which you will help those type of people create money in this particular way. And so that's kind of the way you really drill down on what your book is going to be about.
And so once you've arrived at that, then it's just a matter of setting up a schedule, sticking to the schedule, making the time for it, and keeping the end in mind. The end, the payoff here for people, because it is work. There's a lot of work that has to go into this. The payoff is published author, renowned expert, perhaps grow that into television appearances, speaking engagements, but become a luminary in their industry.
It's all part of the plan. It should definitely be part of your business plan if it's something that you want to do.
Right.
And one last thing, I want to make sure that people definitely have takeaways in their book. What I mean by takeaway, what's the lesson that the reader's going to get by reading this book? So by reading this book, you will make more money in this business. By reading this book, you will no longer have back pain. By reading this book, you will have a great experience.
Right.
So you need to make sure that at the end of the day, people can say, well, I read this book and I got this outcome. So it's all about leading with outcomes. And you want to ask that question when you're writing a book. By reading this book, my target audience will get this result.
Right. So that process is also going to help you title and subtitle the book properly, which is going to drive your search engine stardom. Is that?
You're starting to give away all my secrets.
What I meant was, for more information, we'll have to come back and after I take your seminar myself, I'll be more qualified to talk about it. So that's great. So what I hear mostly is it's really not that big a deal. Just dig in and do it.
Absolutely. It's like head to the grindstone, just do it. It will benefit your business. It's a game changer.
Right.
It's an absolute game changer. I talk to all my clients after they write their book, and their business has increased, their consulting fees have increased, their visibility has increased. People think they're superstars. You got to get used to,
This is good.
Signing autographs. I mean,
Right.
that's part of it. And the great thing is you are leveraging your knowledge, you're packaging it for profits, you're packaging it for visibility, and you are making sure that you are available to be found online.
Getting found as the expert, and we're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Alicia Dunams. Thanks for joining us. My name is Mike Wolpert. This has been another episode of Social JumpStart, the cable television program about social media. We'll see you next time, live from the Tag.com studios.